Hello everyone, today we're going to cover inputs and outputs on Scratch. Now for an idea of inputs, it's anything that you send into a computer, a console or a mobile phone. So here's a few examples, like a keyboard or mouse. So you're sending an input of electronic signal representing letters, arrows, or the enter key or space key, or the mouse, it moving around on screen or being clicked. Other examples are in consoles, for instance, such as an Xbox controller or PlayStation controller, or something more complicated like a Kinect web camera, which detects your movement and your limbs. In terms of output, you have other things, anything that comes out of a computer. So you can have a screen, for instance, that you're using right now, either on your phone or laptop or computer, or even your speakers or headphones. So if it sends out anything visual or in audio form, that can be considered an output as well. Now in Scratch, we're going to start you off with two sets of scripts. They are the motion ones and control. So these are the two options here. I'm going to use the default sprite here of the cat. I'm just going to name here, and we want to get that up and moving. So we can add in different scripts to make this happen. Now the best way to go about this is to think about what you want to happen first. So for instance, I want this cat to be able to move up, down, left and right on the screen, and maybe not go off the screen when it reaches the edge. So to start with, I'm going to choose a point in direction script. I'm going to pop that on the top. Let's say I want it to go left to begin with. So I can select -90 degrees, which means when that is pressed, it points that way. Now you'll notice he's upside down right now, because your character can point in any of the 360 degrees. Now you can choose it to rotate like this, but obviously for this kind of character it might not work, so maybe having it only face left and right, which you can select up here, would work best. Also, if you want it just to remain static, the same direction, no matter which way you're facing, you can select that bottom one. But for this purpose we're just going to have it only facing left and right. So I have that option, and I can also duplicate this. I can grab from the left, or I can right click and duplicate this. So I'm going to have left and right. So right now if I click on that, he faces left. If I click on that, he faces right. We also want him to move in any direction, so I'm going to drag in move 10 steps. It's important you get this in the right order, in that he has to face the right direction before we get him to step. So when I'm clicking this now, he will face in that direction and then take a step. Now I'm going to go into if on edge bounce now, which means if he gets to the very edge at the moment, he will just walk straight off the screen. But, say if I move him back and put on if on edge bounce, if he reaches the edge of the screen, he will just bounce back, like so. And he's facing the opposite direction. So we'll keep that for both of them. Now I'm quite happy with these inputs, so I'm going to add the up and down now. Rather than drag in all the scripts again, I'm going to right click and duplicate those all, and make a few alterations. So this one's going to be down. I'm pointing in the down direction. I'll duplicate it once more and point it in the up direction. So now you can see I've placed this up. Ooh. Up, down, left and right, all placed out there. But at the moment we have no keys. When I press any keys, nothing's going to happen. It's only when I double click on these. So we need to go to the control script. Now when we start the game, we could have when green flag is pressed, but we're going to choose when a certain arrow, when a certain keyboard key is pressed. So I'm going to go with the traditional arrow keys. So I'm going to drag in one for the up arrow, one for the down arrow, one for the left, and one for the right. Now, if this is working correctly, I should now be able to control it. So just a few taps of the keys, I can get him moving about on the screen. Now, with any computer game, at the start of a level, a character starts in a certain position, either when you last saved, or at the very start of a level, like in Sonic or Mario, or Gears of War. Any of these ones, they all have a starting location. Now you'll notice as I move the cat around the screen, if I hold my mouse up in the top left hand corner, you can see the X and Y coordinates. That decides where he is on the screen. So that value represents where exactly on the stage he appears. The absolute zero, the absolute center, would be X0 and Y0. So if you want an idea of this, here is his coordinates at the moment, which is -63 and -101. I'm going to set those both to 0. So no matter where he is on the screen, or even off the screen, when that is clicked on, he goes back to the center. So you see I can move him up to the top left hand corner, back to the center. Now we'll connect it with another input, which is when the green flag is pressed, which is when the game starts. So no matter what's happened in the game, when I press that green flag, it restarts the game from the very beginning, and he'll begin in the center. You can do this for any sprite be it items, enemies or characters, but they can start in the middle. And this is the basic inputs and outputs to get them moving on the screen. Now there are some other methods as well, such as offering them the choice to turn them or rotate him. There's pointing in a direction. You can even point him towards a mouse, for instance. So if you want mouse-based controls, you can, when a certain button is pressed, like the mouse key, you can get the character to point towards your mouse and follow it. If you wanted to start at a certain location, you can set that. You can even get him to glide to a different location. So let's say I put him back in the center and we use this glide command. He will glide and move by himself to a certain location. So no matter where he is, when we run that, he glides to a certain location. You can also set it up so it only changes the X coordinate, which is moving left and right. So if you wanted to move forward, moving X by 10. If you wanted to move to the left, it's -10. But in our case, we're using the degrees of pointing in a certain direction. And this if on edge bounce allows you to stop it going off in any direction. These last three down here keep the value of the X and Y position and also the direction, but we'll go into that in a little more detail later on. Other inputs that you can choose from the controls that we've already used the first two. We can have if you click on a sprite, so a certain event could happen if you click on it. It can wait for a second, so say if I connect this up to the left arrow, when I press it now, if I press the left, it will wait a second first before moving it, as you can see. Whether or not that's useful to you or not, you'll find out later on. Forever is quite interesting, in that forever, at the moment, with say the down arrow, when I press down it only happens once, but if we add forever into it and put everything inside of it, when I press the down arrow it will keep going down forever. Let's give it a try. So you can see there he just kept going down. I can move him now, but he's continually doing that. Now that's going to come in useful later on when you want loops or anything to change at all, but you can do that a little bit later on. And these other parts such as broadcast or if, we're going to go into a little more detail later on, but just so you know, we're going to go into those in a little more detail, but we'll just show you the basics for now, which is that basic input of me pressing the keys or clicking the green flag, and the outputs in blue of movement, which you can see on screen straight away. One more thing I might add in, just as a little extra if you have time, you can also add in sound effects. With each of your sprites, they can have a different sound effect that you can either record or import in from a list of sound effects, such as this one, which should have a little meow sound. If I have that unmuted, you can have a little listen. And you can also add that into your script. So say every time he jumps up in the air, we could add in the sound effect of him meowing. So left and right and down do not have that effect, but on the up arrow we have that sound effect. So as you can see, you can add that other output onto your computer game. Alright, that's the basics of